Good morning. Today, we're not only going to do the Torah portion, we're also going to discuss Sfirat Omer, the counting of the Omer. Who's familiar with the counting of the Omer?
Mm.
Go ahead,
I know.
Margaret. What do you know? What do you know?
No, no, I know you do it for 40 days,
49 days.
49 days.
And what are we counting? Why are we counting?
I forget.
Okay. Anyone? Jane?
I know. I forget every
Yes.
year why we do it.
Okay.
Until the time we get the Torah,
Very good.
maybe.
Yes. So from the
Yeah.
first night, the second night of the holiday of Pesach, till the day that we received the Torah in Shavuos, which is called the holiday of Shavuos, we count. From then, we count every day, 1 day, 2 day, till the holiday of Shavuos, which is the 50th day. So we count 49 days till we receive the Torah. Why do we count? So very simply because in anticipation of receiving this beautiful gift from Almighty God. And by Jews, we always count up, just like Hanukkah. We light one candle and two candles. Likewise, we count Sphira. We don't do a countdown. We always do a count up because, anybody know? We're always adding.
Increasing. We're always
Bigger.
increasing.
Exactly. The Jewish way is to always increase and not decrease. So we're always counting up, unlike NASA, they're counting down. 10, 9, okay. And it's beautiful because the word sphera means to count, but it also means sapphire, which is like a sapphire, to beautify, to enhance.
That's my name.
Yeah?
Isn't that your last
Sapphire,
name?
that's right. Margaret Sapphire. Beautiful,
Yeah,
right.
right.
And remember, what else was made out of sapphire? And the person became very
Oh,
wealthy.
the tablets.
Very
The
good.
tablets, right?
Yeah, the luchos were made from sapphire, which is a very
Really?
precious stone. And when the second luchos were carved out by Moses, chiseling out,
Yeah.
God said to him, as a reward, you get all the little tidbits and the pieces that you chiseled out. And it ended up being quite a fortune. So he was wealthy, but he became even wealthier. But what is it about these 49 days that we call it to beautify, to enhance? So there's a beautiful, beautiful mitzvah from the Torah, a mitzvah to count. Why? During the time of the Holy Temple, the Beis HaMikdash, on the second day of Pesach, they would bring a measurement of Omer. Omer means measurement of barley as a gift to the Beit HaMikdash, to God. And from that day on, they counted 49 days. But now we don't have giving of the barley because we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. Remember, we discussed that offerings are only done during the time when the Beis HaMikdash stood. You're not bringing a goat on Pesach. You're not bringing a goat on Shavuos till Mashiach comes. We're not bringing offerings. We're not bringing incense. The Kohanim are not doing the work in the Beit HaMikdash. Margaret's husband is a Kohen.
He's off.
Right? Yeah, he's off duty for now.
Yeah.
So why are we still counting if the counting is connected to the Beis HaMikdash? Does anybody know why are we counting?
Till the next one comes.
Sorry, what did you say? I didn't hear.
I'm hoping until the next one comes.
Yeah, you mean anticipation for the third Beis HaMikdash?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also because when the Jews have a mitzvah, the rabbis wrote in the Talmud, you don't want to take it away. You don't want to take away this very important mitzvah. So now it's a tradition to count. Some rabbis say you're still obligated from the Torah, but other rabbis write in the Talmud that it's a tradition to count. So we continue counting. So we keep the tradition, even though we say we're not starting with an Omer, and we're not, and the holiday of Shavuos, they bought another measurement. They brought the first fruits, remember? So we start with an offering and we end with an offering, so to speak. But there's a deeper understanding here of counting. We're counting, yes, but there's also counting like we discussed, refining our 7 emotional attributes. You know the saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is God's gift, and that's why it's called the present, the present. So counting that we recognize that every day has an energy, and every day we can start fresh, and every day is an opportunity for growth and personality and character refinement. So the Kabbalah explains that there are 7 emotional attributes. Now we know that God created the world with 10 attributes. The intellectual attributes, Chabad, Chachma, Bina, V'das, and then the 7 emotional attributes, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. So the world was created with 10 utterances, 3 intellectual utterances, 7 emotional attributes or utterances, and these characteristics, 7, every day of the week we refine another one of these characteristics, and as we progress, this combination, discipline with kindness, strength with empathy, royalty with bonding, and every combination, I know it sounds complicated, but I'm going to go into it a little deeper, is an opportunity for us to refine certain qualities that we have. So these 49 days, we can tap into an energy every single day and refine that energy. Like giving an example is, why do we celebrate Pesach? How many more years are we going to celebrate Exodus from Egypt? Enough already. We know we were slaves. It's now already close to over 3,000 years ago, time to drop it. But the Kabbalah explains, and Hasidus explains, that you're not only celebrating a historical adventure, which in itself is beautiful, it has the energy of freedom today. When you celebrate Pesach today, you're celebrating the concept that you can free yourself now of bondage, of things that hold you back. So the energy recreates itself. So it's not only a Baba Maisa that you tell your children, God forbid, not a Baba Maisa, but there's an energy that you could tap into. Likewise, with these 7 attributes, there's an energy every day you could tap into. I'm going to give you 1 or 2 examples so you feel it's more relevant to you, instead of like, oh, what is this esoteric thing? I have enough trouble in my life. My therapist gave me enough to do. I don't have time for this. Okay. So today, let's say together, today is the 14th
Today. It's the 14th.
14th day
of the Omer,
Today.
of the Omer.
which
Of
is
the
2
Omer.
weeks.
These 2 weeks,
Which is 2 weeks.
which is 2 weeks.
So the Omer is also a very interesting thing I'm going to put in, that you're not only counting days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. After it completes 1 week, you say, today is the 4th, let's say tomorrow. I can't say it because they'll be like counting. When we concluded the 11th, the 8th day, what is the counting is? Today is the 8th day, which is a week and a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do you have to say a week and a day? Either say a week and a day or say 8 days. You don't walk around saying, I'm a week and a day old. You say she's 8 days old, he's 9 days old. Margaret, soon you're going to start saying that 10 days old, 11 days
right.
old. Why does the Torah command us to say the day and the week? Is it the day or is it the week? Well, why confuse us? So in the beginning, it makes sense. 1 day, 2 day, 3. But once you reach a week, either say today's 7 days in the Omer or it's a week. Why do you have to say a week and a day? Say 11 days, 8 days, 9 days. Tomorrow, we're going to say 2 weeks and a day, let's say. Right? So why is the Torah giving us weeks and days? And that has to do with change in our lives. When you exercise, when you diet, when you're an antibiotic, let's say, the change doesn't happen overnight. The doctor says, don't forget to take it for 10 full days because it needs to work. 1 pill is not going to cure you from your strep throat. You need to take it for 10 days. When you diet and you exercise, for example, do you see your muscles in 1 day? But in 2, 3 weeks later, somebody might mention, wow, Margaret, you've been working out. Wow, like your shoulders, nice enhancement. Or dieting. Slowly people say, well, did you lose weight? You're looking great. So everything is a process. So day to day, you don't see change. You see change by week, by month. So the Torah is telling us that you count the days, but also the weeks. The days is you need to do the work. Every day you need to lift weights. Every day you need to abstain, let's say, from sugar. But when will you see the change? By the weeks. So the day is the nitty-gritty of the hard work you put in. But when will you see the change? Slowly but surely over the weeks. And hopefully by Shavuos, there's a change. There's a change in you. So let's go through 1 or 2 examples of what does it mean to change. So I'm going to open up actually my brother's fantastic book called The Counting of the Omer. It's phenomenal. It's also online. And I'm going to give an example of today's work. Okay, so today's work is Malchut, which is nobility, Gevura, discipline. So what does it mean, nobility of discipline? So my brother writes, and I'm reading from his book, discipline, like love, must enhance personal dignity. Discipline that demoralizes you backfires. Healthy discipline bolsters your self-esteem. So what does it mean? Does my discipline enhance me, or does my discipline demoralize me? Sometimes you're very disciplined, but you're also very critical of yourself with that discipline. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. Discipline is good, but it should be coupled with nobility, where you build your self-esteem. You're disciplined, but you feel good about yourself. So what's the exercise of the day? When disciplining your child, your student, yourself, foster self-respect in that discipline. Don't put, like say, make me, don't break me. Discipline is good, but you have to couple it with nobility in a sense where you build up. Not, I'm disciplining you, you're a nobody. You always were a nobody and you're still a nobody. And you could do it to yourself. Sometimes I'm so unaccomplished and I'll never be accomplished. I'm so useless. I'm useless and I'll always be useless. Use discipline to enhance your nobility, where you're structured, you have discipline in your life. Not everything goes, but you couple it with nobility, which means you have self-esteem. You have a shtel. You're valued. You're noble. You're necessary. So that's what it means. And every day you have these exercises. There's a beautiful exercise day 1 I want to share. Day 1 is love. Exercise for the day. Find a new way to express your love to a dear one. That's a beautiful exercise. We all can find a new way to express our love. For once, don't serve bird food. That's a joke.
No. No.
There's always a new way you can express your love, myself included, we all could improve in that area. What's a good way that you could express your love that you haven't done before? Margaret, what's a good idea?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, I always think of cooking something, but
cooking a new dish. Wow.
Yeah.
You haven't made rice tonight? What's going on, Margaret? You've been making rice every night for 90 years.
No.
What about you, Jane? Any ideas of how you could show love in a new way? I tell you, it's challenging. I'm
watching a sporting event. Sorry,
watch sports with your husband, huh? But what happens if your husband doesn't like sports?
No, right. Well, no, but something he likes,
Yeah, like my friend says she's going to a Super Bowl party. I'm like, what, you like football? She says, no, I like the food.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an example of what it means that every single day you're tapping into another emotional attribute that we all possess and try to enhance your life. even if you take 5 minutes a day, you go down online to Chabad.org and you look up counting of the Omer and you count it in English, and then you look and see what could I do? I think they even printed my brother's book on their website. Here,
Wow.
there's another one, week 2. Gvura Chesed, discipline and loving kindness. Help others on their terms, not on yours. Apply yourself to their specific needs, even if it takes effort. So sometimes this is another beautiful exercise. I love it because he gives you exercises every day. Because otherwise you wonder, like, what does it mean? What does it mean? What am I supposed to do? And an example of this is rain is a blessing when it doesn't flood your basement, when it doesn't flood your crops. So that's what it means. Help others, but don't flood them. Do it in a way that it benefits them.
Freida, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the name of the book?
Yes, I'll show you. It's called The Counting of the Omer.
Let me take a picture.
By Rabbi Simon Jacobson, which is my brother. And I have to tell you, it's a self-help book. You could even do it, not even Svira. It's such a good book because it has it's concise, and my favorite part is the exercises. Because, it's a little bit esoteric. But when it tells you what to do, every day it has an exercise how to combine the attributes. Like one of the exercises later is going to be express compassion without taking any personal credit. Like you'll say, I'm so compassionate. Just do it. Just be compassionate. You don't have to take credit. All these kind of little exercises I love because they're so practical. And you could practice on your spouse, you could practice on your children, you could practice on your friends, and it's online on his website, which is Meaningful Life Center, or Chabad.org, I think also has it online, but his website is called Meaningful Life Center. He has it on his website. You don't even have to buy the book. I love books. I love holding a paper. I like holding a book in my hand, but not everyone likes to hold a book in their hand. So it's a phenomenal, phenomenal book. I said to myself, even if I do a few exercises, I'll be a better person. Because I wouldn't know what the exercise of the day is. Right? But he outlines it in it's also, why people love it and I love it. It's so short. You're not going into 15-page philosophical, things that you have to analyze for yourself. So that's the counting of the Svira. Before we go into the next topic of the Parsha, I want to read the 7 attributes again and tell me which one you love best. Chesed, kindness. Gevura, discipline. Tiferes, beauty. It doesn't mean external beauty, makeup and lipstick. It means inner beauty. Netzach, endurance. Hod, humility. Yesod, connection. And Malchut, nobility, sovereignty, leadership, and royalty. Which is your favorite?
Well, how can you pick one?
Yeah.
If you want to.
I'd say kindness.
Kindness.
Beautiful. Kindness. What about you, Jane?
That was one, and also humility.
Yeah. Humility. That's beautiful. And I'm glad you chose humility. I'll tell you why. Because the Torah portion actually has a discussion this week that very much involves humility. So we're going to jump into it. And the Torah portion is a double. Remember, we discussed that sometimes when it's not a Jewish leap year, we need to finish the Torah by the end of the year, by Simchat Torah, right? So you need to have an equal division of the Torah portions. So you double them up. So this week there's a double header, Tazria and Metzorah, because the Torah has to be finished at a certain time. So the rabbis figured out how to double up when necessary. And Tazria and Metzorah are like complicated Torah portions. Why? Because Tazria means to conceive.
Mitch, you can't help me?
And the name of the
You can
Parsha
play
Metzorah
with that.
has to
I
do
can't
with,
even hear this. Okay, sorry.
that's okay. Tazria means to conceive. So it talks about after a woman gives birth, mikvah, ritual purity, and so on, circumcision. And the other Metzorah talks about a leprosy. And this is not a leprosy that now somebody goes to a hospital and he was diagnosed with leprosy. That's a different type of leprosy. So we're going to start actually with leprosy first, and then we'll go back to discuss a little bit about mikvah and ritual purity after a woman gives birth, when a woman has her menstrual cycle, and so on. And just to emphasize once again that ritual purity is not about, are you clean? Are you physically clean? It has to do about spiritual cleanliness. I don't even want to use cleanliness, purity. We know that the Kohen, who's a man, had to immerse every time before he went into the Beis HaMikdash. And on Yom Kippur, 4 times he immersed in a mikvah. So we know that ritual purity, there's ritual purity for males and there's ritual purity for females. For example, in the Hasidic life, like Chabad, before prayer, most men immerse in the men's mikvah in the morning before they pray for spiritual purity. Before the wedding, on the wedding day, the groom immerses in the mikvah. Likewise, a married woman, after her menstrual cycle, she counts 7 days of purity, and then she immerses in the mikvah, and then she's able to have intimacy with her husband. When you're pregnant and you don't have a menstrual cycle, or you're nursing and you don't have a menstrual cycle, you don't have to immerse in the mikvah because you didn't have a menstrual cycle. Now, the menstrual cycle, why is that considered impure? Because the potential for conception has been lost that month. When you don't conceive, you have a menstrual cycle, you are releasing that which could have been part of the embryonic sac and so on. That's why you don't have a period when you're pregnant, because all the, I don't know what we want to call it. What do we call it? It creates the sac and the nutrients for the baby. And when you have a menstrual cycle, all that comes out. So because it's a level of death, impurity, death equal impurity, because the dead body doesn't have a soul. A woman immerses after her menstrual cycle to come back to that level of purity once again, now that all parts of the whatever that have to come out from a menstrual cycle come out. That's why if you have a very long menstrual cycle and you keep bleeding, you can't go to the mikvah. You have to first be rid of that cycle, so to speak. And I don't mean in a negative term, So because the menstruation is a symbolic of death, the loss of conception, so to speak, you have to go to the mikvah. But a woman who's in a menstrual cycle, menopause, nursing, pregnant, and is not staining, is not emitting any menstruation, she doesn't have to go to the mikvah just one last time. So like a woman turns, let's say 59, right? And now her menstrual cycle stops. She goes one last time and that's it. You can be intimate whatever you want. Now, why does intimacy have to do with it? Because when you're intimate, you're able to conceive a child. If you have your menstrual cycle, you can't be intimate because you're impure and you're not able to conceive life at that point. Normally, 99%, there's no one that can conceive during their menstrual cycle. Doesn't happen. Even if you're not a Jew, even if you don't keep laws of mikvah. So we see that it's all connected. So again, to reiterate, the reason the mikvah is when there's a loss of life or conceptual idea of life, you become impure. and you immerse in the mikveh to come back to that level of purity where you can once again conceive a child. And being also intimacy is considered the holiest act in the Torah. When a husband and wife come together in an intimate act and are united as one, we call it reunited because you've always been one soul separated. Reunited, because it's such a holy act, you want to be on the highest level of purity for this. So you go to the mikveh after your menstrual cycle, you're intimate with your husband as long as you want till your next menstrual cycle. And because it's considered a very, very holy act, this expression of love and intimacy, you go to the mikveh before, but not every time. One woman said, every time I'm intimate, I have to go to the mikveh. I'm like, no, one time. You could be intimate as long as you like until your next menstrual cycle. So you don't have to run to the mikveh every time you want to be intimate. And likewise, your husband doesn't have to run to the mikveh every time he wants to be intimate. Honey, 1 minute, I got to go to the mikveh. That's not how it works. Okay. So understanding this is explaining why we have the concept of the mikveh. It's rebirth. It's a concept of rebirth. Like one woman, just her daughter got married, and she called me. She never went to the mikveh. She only went when she got married, whatever, so many years ago. Her daughter's going to the mikveh before her wedding. She wants to go. Now she's in menopause. So we did the laws, the checking, the counting, and then I drove her and we went and I took her to the mikveh, and she came out. She says, Freida, I have to tell you, this was just such a beautiful, meaningful, uplifting experience for me. She says, when can I go again? I'm like, you can't. You don't have to. You're menopause. Now that's it. Unless you start bleeding for whatever reason, you don't have to go again. So it's a very beautiful, beautiful mitzvah. Is it challenging for newlyweds? Absolutely. It's very challenging. Unless you're on birth control pills where you're not getting your period, it's very challenging. Because every time you get your period, you have to sleep in separate beds and you're not intimate. You can't be intimate. And newlyweds, of course, they always want to be intimate 24/7, right? Okay. So it's a challenging mitzvah, but in many, many ways, it really builds a very strong marriage. I'll give you one more tidbit and then we'll go on to the leprosy. It builds a very strong marriage because when you can't be intimate with your husband, when you really want to, right? Many times you're in the mood, but you have your period or you're counting towards mikvah and you're following the rules. You're very pious about it because it's a very holy, special thing. And when you keep it, you have many blessings. But it's very challenging. It's to say it's not challenging is not true. You learn to communicate with your spouse on a different level. Because always what happens, you have a fight, you happen to bed, you give a kiss and a hug. What happens when you can't do that? When you have an argument, a fight, or some tension, you have to talk it out. You have to communicate on a different level now than physical touch. So because you're forced to many days of the week or month communicate without touching, it builds a very strong marriage. It builds also a very deep love because it's a love on a level that supersedes anything else. That's why, when a person follows the rules of the Torah, there's no intimacy till you get married. So people say, well, don't you want to try her out? Don't you want to try him out? Make sure he knows what he's doing? Of course. Why not? But most people, when they date a few times, they already have intimacy. And it doesn't let them sometimes develop the relationship. They don't know anything because there's no more talk. But when you date and you don't touch and you don't kiss till the wedding, you're forced to get to know the person on a very deep level because you can't touch them, you can't kiss them, you can't be intimate with them. Many times people said it was the intimacy that got in the way. I didn't know he wasn't for me or she wasn't for me because we were right away intimate. We didn't really have those the conversations. We hopped in together and that was it, and we got married. We never spoke about the real tough questions. So many times people will tell you, whether you're Jewish or not Jewish, whether you follow the laws of mikvah, that it was intimacy that got in the way of them developing a relationship. So it's not something that, it's something like every mitzvah. It's one of the hardest mitzvahs in the Torah, in my opinion, but it's also the holiest mitzvah in the Torah. So that's why it's not something overnight. I'm going to convince you. Oh my gosh, yes, she convinced me. I'm now, yes. It's a development of yourself, like eating kosher even. The rabbi spoke about it last Shabbos. It's not one day you're going to start eating kosher. It's a process. Some couples tell me, listen, I went to the mikvah once every few months because it was too hard. And they slowly built up to every time. So it's not all or nothing in Jewish life. You build up to it. You develop a relationship with God and with yourself and with your soul. And then you build up to doing mitzvahs. Maybe you start off with an easier mitzvah, But for me, not to mention it when it's in the Torah portion, it's such an unbelievable, holy, beautiful, spiritual mitzvah. I feel it's, even if, let's say, you're not a young woman about to get married, right? It's still very important to know because you have children, you have grandchildren, and even for yourself. So it's very important to understand the dynamics of these mitzvah, which is a decree, actually. God doesn't say, keep mikvah because A, B, and C, you'll be happier. A, B, and C, you'll have a much more lovelier marriage. You'll have a much better marriage. But you speak to couples, and myself included, they'll tell you every month is a honeymoon because you're so excited. You haven't touched your husband in 14 days. Woo! It creates excitement. Are you ever forced? Absolutely not. If you're not in the mood, you're not in the mood. It's against the law, actually, for a husband to force his wife if she's not in the mood. And it's up to the husband to pleasure his wife. The same Torah that tells you to go to the mikvah tells you that a husband has an obligation to bring pleasure to his wife and to respect the boundaries of his wife. And many husbands will tell you that mikvah is what kept them respecting their wife. That it's not on demand. There's rules. God has a play in the relationship. So there's many, many, many aspects to mikvah that are beautiful, beneficial, uplifting. But again, to reiterate, is it challenging? Absolutely. And it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of inner work and connection to God and your soul. And it's a personal thing also. It's not only about your husband. Oh, I'm going to the mikveh because I'm married. Well, obviously you go to the mikveh when you're married. You're not married, you're not needed to go to the mikveh. If you're a divorcee or a widow, why are you going to the mikveh? You're not having intimacy with anybody. But it's a very personal thing. Very personal thing. And it's a beautiful thing. Does anybody have any questions or rebuttals? Don't be shy.
Can someone, like who's never been, like me or something, go even if it's irrelevant to, the period and everything?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just mentioned that there was a woman who never went to the mikveh. She was menopause. I took her once, and that was it. That's it. She did it. And as a matter of fact, the Rebbe spoke about this because a woman writes that her mother never went to the mikveh, but she's a balish tshuva. She came back she follows, so she feels, is there any way a reflection on her spirituality? And the Rebbe said, absolutely not. Because by you going to the mikveh, you're rectifying. So even if a person has never gone to the mikveh, they go once because they're menopausal, it's retroactive. That's the power of God. God can repair everything and make things retroactive. And I'll tell you, my sister told me so many stories because she has a very large community, and a lot of women in menopause, after she gave her mikveh class, all called her up. They want to go. So, you have to separate from your husband for a certain amount of days. No hanky-panky. And then you go. And then you could be intimate whenever you want, even after menopause. You don't give up your intimacy just because you're not having children or you're menopause. Why? You still have companionship and love with your spouse, hopefully. And they all told her, and like this woman who told me, that it was so beautiful, so meaningful. it's hard to describe because it's something personal. You might go to the mikveh and say, wow, this was amazing. Another one will go, well, I did it because it's so great, but I don't know what I felt. But most of the time you do feel amazing afterwards because you're immersing in water like a pool of water privately with the mikveh attendant, but there's something so godly about it. It's so hard to explain. And I never really share everything. Why? Because if you don't have the same experience that I have, you'll later say to me, Freida, why'd you tell me? I didn't feel that at all. So I let every woman feel it for herself. I let every woman feel it for herself. You have to experience it. My experience may not be your experience. But basically, whenever I take a woman to the mikveh, I don't go into the room, don't worry. I respect the privacy. They come out and they thank me. Not me, Freida. I'm not saying it from arrogance. Thank me that, wow, what an experience I had. But I don't hype it up too much because there are times, you might have to deal with your feelings and they may not always be what I felt. So that's why I don't hype it up too much, just a little bit, but it's magnificent. And anyone who wants to do it, call me. We'll go through the laws. It's much easier when it's a one and done than when it's every month. I just taught a bride. She's getting married in the spring, in the summer. And we sat and we spoke and I explained to her, it's like 10 lessons. And it's much more traumatic for a bride because she's, what? She was in shock. But I explained to her and she wants to do it and her husband's on board. Her husband says, I really want my wife to keep mikvah. Even though we're not religious Jews, we really want to do this mitzvah. And I'm like, you're on the right track, Joey. His name is not Joey. I made that up. So now let's talk about leprosy. There's a very strange mitzvahs in the Torah surrounding leprosy. That a person wakes up in the morning and their house has weird spots. What you might say, is this mold? What happened? Are there termites in my house? And then the person might see it on his clothes or on his vessels. What happened to my clothes? Did the laundromat ruin my outfit? And then the worst case scenario when there's leprosy on the person themselves. And the Torah says, when does a person get leprosy during the time of the Holy Temple? By the way, it's not happening now, is when somebody speaks Lashon Hara, evil tongue, malicious slander, and does not repent. They start on the house. God first warns it on the house. This is a house of slander. This is a house of evil speech. The person doesn't realize and keeps going. Now it's on their clothing. And if there's no repentance and no effort to backtrack on that behavior, the person themselves becomes a leper. And they have to go out of the camp where the Jews were. There was a special area, and they have to repent. And then when the Kohen examines them, the priest, and they say, you're clear, there's an immersion, there's an offering with 2 birds and a cedar and a hyssop and so on. That has to be sprinkled, and then they can come back to daily life. Again, during the time of the Holy Temple. So this is a very serious transgression. Now imagine today, if I would speak, God forbid, and suddenly I would get leprosy. God forbid, God forbid. We're not on that level of holiness that we could tolerate such a situation. Remember, the Jews living the time of the Holy Temple and saw the daily miracles, they spoke evil or bad or slander, or even if it was the truth. You said, did you see how that one swindled that one? It's the truth, but it's slander, which means it's talk. Well, slander means it's a lie, right? The slander means they're telling about somebody else, and they consistently are a person that speaks evil, negative about others, they get leprosy. It's a very serious transgression. Now, they might have done it privately in their home, but they're publicly recognized as a leper because everything you think you're going to do it hidden is always revealed. God sees everything. Now, who analyzes the situation? A person wakes up in the morning and sees it on their house, on their clothing, or on themselves. Do they go to the medical doctor in the time of the Beis Hamikdash? Do they go to the rabbi? They go to the Kohen. Why the Kohen? Cohen's not a doctor. Why not the local doctor or the rabbi, the scholar? Moses, one of his assistants, or latter years, the Jewish leaders of Joshua, all the Jewish sages. Why go to the Kohen? Anybody know? Why the Kohen? Why is the Kohen the one that diagnoses the situation? What does the Kohen do on the holy days and every day in the time of the temple? Margaret, you would know. What does your husband do when he comes to shul?
Oh, well, he prays, but he blesses everybody.
Very good. How? Be'ahava, with love.
Mm-hmm.
A Kohen who doesn't love the Jewish people is an angry Kohen, a bitter Kohen. A Kohen that has anger cannot get up and bless the nation. That was a rule that God said. You're a Kohen? Doesn't matter. You're an angry Kohen. Please don't bless. Blessing has to come from love. If you're not a Kohen that has love for your people, please don't bless. If you're holding a grudge, you come to shul and go, him? I can't stand his guts. Her? My wife hates her. Them? A Kohen like that should not get up and bless because it's not coming from authenticity. So a Kohen has to have love in their heart. So when it comes to diagnosing leprosy, it has to be somebody who's non-judgmental, loves the nation, and will not be vindictive and say, oh yeah, Joe, you have leprosy, get out. When Joe may not have leprosy. Maybe he has a skin condition that needs a doctor. So a Kohen who shows and has love in his heart for the people of Israel diagnoses the skin condition called leprosy, or the house condition, or the clothing condition. It has to be someone who's non-judgmental and is not going to have his personal vendetta or anger involved. As a matter of fact, just like a judge has to recluse himself, right? If he knows the family or he has a prejudice against a minority, a proper judge recluses himself. So a proper Kohen is someone who would say, I can't handle this case, give it over to my fellow Kohen. And that's why only a married Kohen worked in the temple usually. Why married? Because if he knows how to have a relationship with a wife, he'll know how to have relationships with human beings. He'll know how to relate. He'll know how to compromise. He'll know how to be empathetic and compassionate towards others. Person who never has a relationship with anyone else doesn't know how to compromise, doesn't know how to negotiate, doesn't know how to make room, and is an arrogant, self-centered bachelor, cannot be a Kohen in the Beis Hamikdash usually, because he doesn't know how to have a relationship. And the whole kahuna is based on ahava, love, humility, serving God and serving the people of Israel for their benefit. So the Kohen diagnoses the patient, so to speak, and the Kohen later also purifies after the person is healed, after they repent and they change their ways. And many times a house cannot be healed from leprosy, it's burnt. Clothing cannot be healed. You can't only cut it out, it comes back. Clothing have to be discarded. You cannot wear those clothing anymore. So it was a quite intense process happening with the Kohen. Now, there was also a very interesting tidbit. Let's say a newlywed got diagnosed with leprosy. The Kohen could also defer the punishment of excommunication. He says, wow, this guy's a groom. He just got married. He's going on his honeymoon. I can't declare him a leper. I can't say, yes, you sin, get out. He just married her. So the Kohen had the discretion to defer somebody from leprosy because of certain conditions. He understood that there's a certain emotional context that he has to take into. into effect. It wasn't like, okay, you're a leper, out. So it's a beautiful thing that the Kohen had the ability to differentiate at times and make an exception to a person, a newlywed, or another extenuating. So, for example, right? Pesach is coming. A guy comes to the Kohen and says, look, I have something on my body. What should I do? The Kohen could say, come back to me after Pesach. Why? Pesach is coming. He has to be with his family. Can't declare him now a leper. So a Kohen had the discretion to be able to say, let's come back to me. Let's see what happens in 2 weeks, right after Pesach. So this comes to show you that yes, there was a lot of consequences to speaking evil or negative, but there's also leeway for the Kohen to take into account a person's feelings, a person's situation, right?
Mhm.
It was very, very important.
Can a person repent, I mean, like at home and then have it go away? I mean, is there any way?
Very well said. So why did God first put leprosy on the house? Tell me.
Oh, as a warning, I guess.
Exactly. And then why on the
The
clothes
clothes,
afterwards?
yeah.
Again, a
Yeah,
warning.
more.
And if a person doesn't heed the warning, then they become personally
Yeah.
a leper, right? So it's not like God just made a person leprosy. God gave a person warning. Why didn't the person know that this is a warning from God? Wake up, what I did was
Yeah.
wrong. So you have to understand that when during the Beis Hamikdash, the revelation of God was so great, like during the time when the exodus of Egypt, like we didn't ever see God hovering over the mountain, like the Spirit of God, that their level of Kedusha, of holiness, was much higher than ours. The expectations were higher. Like I just prefaced it by saying, imagine every time I spoke negative of someone, boom, my house, my clothing, me, God forbid, God forbid. Would I be able, we'd all be lepers 24/7. I want to reiterate that the leprosy, that tzoras from the Beis Hamikdash time, is not the skin disease that people have now. It's absolutely not related. If you see, God forbid, a leper, don't say, oh, she spoke Lashon Hara. Oh, he spoke bad. No, no, no. It's not the same disease. Now, who else had leprosy? Moses and Miriam. When Moses sees the burning bush, he says, the people won't listen to me. They won't listen to me. God said, put your hand in your bosom. What happened when he took out his hand? He had leprosy. Why? He spoke against the people. So God showed him. Now God said, put your hand back in your bosom. He took it out. The leprosy was gone. That's the first time we hear about leprosy in the Torah. When's the next time? Remember, Moshe separates from his wife because he has God's prophecy after the giving of the Torah consistently, so he doesn't want to be intimate because he doesn't want anything physical to get in the way of his relationship. So Miriam comes to her brother Aaron. Moses' 2 older siblings want to make marriage therapy. They go, what's going to be with our sister-in-law Tzipporah? Moshe is not intimate with her. He's busy with godly relations now. He's busy with God. So they spoke negatively of him. They really wanted to help. What happens? Miriam gets leprosy because she spoke against her brother, even though she meant well, but it had a negative undertone. Wow. And what happens? The Jewish people have to travel. How could Miriam travel with them when she has leprosy? It's very, very painful disease. And 2, if they travel and she stays behind to heal, then how's she going to catch up? She doesn't have a supersonic jet. So God makes the whole nation wait till Miriam is healed. And the Torah says something so beautiful. Why did the nation wait for her? Because when Moshe was put into the river Nile, she followed him to make sure nothing would happen to him and didn't let him wait in hunger till she found a Jewish nursemaid. So she did not let her brother wait in pain. God said, now we will wait for her to minimize her pain. So they say, so why did God struck her with leprosy? Because she's a very holy woman and God wanted to show that there's consequences. Even though she's very holy, yes, at times, even the holy people there are consequences. But God made over how many million people wait for Miriam because she waited, did not let her brother wait in hunger. Remember, he was screaming, and Batya couldn't feed him. He didn't want to eat non-kosher from a non-kosher Egyptian. So Miriam is standing nearby and says, hey, I know someone who could feed him, the Jewish nursemaid, her mother, who just gave birth a few months ago. So the Torah brings it. I wanted to share that. So now why, I want to go back a little. Why is speaking negative of somebody, even if it's true, so bad? Why is the Torah so against speaking evil? And by the way, the word Metzorah, which is leprosy, comes from the word Motze Shem Ra, saying something negative about somebody. It has the word speaking negatively about somebody in the word. Why is it so bad, Margaret? Jane? Why is it so bad? I could think of killing is also a terrible act.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it kind of like killing? I mean, it's like kind of taking their
very good. It's a form of killing, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to keep out of it. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I left. Some of the lesson was blocked out because of my driving, but this is one I need every year to listen to. So, I think it's like killing a spirit almost, or and putting bad vibes out there.
Yeah, so I'll quote Shakespeare. Remember Othello? Mm-hmm. What happens in Othello? Othello is a Moorish general, and he's married to a beautiful woman, Desdemona. Remember Desdemona? Okay, if you read Othello. And he has to promote one of his sergeants. I don't know if it's sergeant. So he, instead of promoting Lago, who is a senior officer, he promotes a younger officer called Cassio. And Lago was very, very hurt. Are you talking? I was so dedicated, and he promoted a younger officer over me. So now Lago wants to, I'm giving it to you in Cliff Notes. Now Lago wants to take revenge. Othello had just married this beautiful woman, Desdemona. So he starts very quietly and insidiously, Motze Shem Ra, that Desdemona is cheating on her new husband, Othello, with Cassio. He's slowly spreading the lies. He doesn't do it in public. He quietly tells this one, tells that one. Insidiously, this happens. He wants to undermine Othello and Cassio. Now, Othello finds out that Cassio is cheating on his wife, his new wife. He has Cassio killed. You can't cheat on with the general's wife. And then he smothers his own beautiful wife, who he loved. He smothers her.
Got that.
Okay? Now, what happens? Lago's wife and Desdemona's attendant know the truth that this never happened. They know that Desdemona was loyal to her husband. They know that Cassio wasn't cheating with her. She's her attendant. They know everything going on in the castles. So Lago's wife goes to Othello and says, my husband made this up. He made this up to undermine you. You killed your own wife, and you had Cassio killed. And Desdemona's attendant tells Othello also, my mistress never cheated on you. So now Othello has a nervous breakdown and he commits suicide. So it's one of Shakespeare's tragedies, like Romeo and Juliet, right? But look what happened. All because Lago slandered and lied and spread a false rumor. Motze Shem Ra. He said bad about somebody and it wasn't even true.
It's like all our misinformation.
Even if something is true, you're not allowed to tell somebody. You're not allowed to go and say, that guy, has a pyramid scheme going on. Now, 1 minute, but you have to also differentiate. If you're saving someone from losing their money and you're saving someone from pain and misery and theft, that's a different story. You have to tell the person. But we're talking about just slander because you like to gossip. Baba mice is because you just like to gossip. It gives you a little joy because you're not feeling so good about yourself. Oh, you think he's rich? You know, he robbed everyone for that money. You think she has a Chanel because yeah, I'll tell you why she has a Chanel. And you have all kinds of information and gossip why someone has something or doesn't have something and so on. So here you see from a silly Shakespeare, which is not so silly in a sense, how just whispering a lie can kill 3 people killed and destroy a whole marriage, a loving marriage, a happy marriage. What did he get out of it? Because he was envious and vicious and cruel. Now you understand, leprosy doesn't just come because, oh, I said, oh yeah, Freida has a new, no, leprosy doesn't come because you said one comment. Leprosy comes slowly. First the house, then your clothing, and then you, which means there's been a big buildup here of Motzi Shem Ra. You didn't make one comment and God says, that comment is inappropriate. You built up your slander or even your truths. Because there's 3. There's Lashon Hara, which is you say the truth, but you're talking bad. Motzi Shem Ra, it's a lie, like Lago. It's a total lie, but you spread a lie. And Rechtelis is you peddle information. Everywhere you go, you say the same story. You know what's going on over there? Let me tell you. Because it empowers you. Oh, she knows everything. Let's hang out with her. That's a terrible thing. People shouldn't want to hang out with you because you have the latest gossip. So here you see the power of words. The power of words. I read a Holocaust story, and we'll end with this. Is a woman was put on a train to go to the concentration camp with her son. And she noticed her son's shoes were missing. So she yelled at her son, "You couldn't even keep your shoes on?" And that was the last time she saw her son. Right thereafter, he was taken and obviously killed by the Nazis, Yimach Shemai. So she survived, and she spoke at a public speech, and she said, there's one thing after the Holocaust that I took upon myself, that everything that comes out of my mouth might be the last words I say to somebody, and it always have to be good. Because the last words that came out of my mouth for my son, I'll never forgive myself for saying that. What did he hear from his mother last words? A rebuke. She says, so now I never know, will this be the last time I see this and this person? I'm going to make sure that the last words I share with that person are going to be positive. And that's my lifelong mission. And I heard the story, it touched me very deeply. I'm thinking to myself, how many times, your kid is going out somewhere or somebody's speaking to, and the last words you say to them, and you don't realize maybe that's the last words they'll ever hear from you. Can you imagine? So what we say, speech is so powerful. God created the world with speech. Speech is one of the most powerful tools we have. Human beings were given the gift of speech, not animals. We have to treasure our words. And I speak to myself because we're all guilty of sometimes saying something that's not nice. I said something once that hurt me deeply. I told my husband, I'm like, am I going to be punished? But you're my husband, so you're like me. So it's like me telling myself. So I hope I'm not going to be punished for saying this about that person. But I was really hurt and I wanted to tell someone. I needed to get it off my chest. So my husband says, Freida, don't worry, I forgive you. You're forgiven. You're forgiven. But that's what it is. You have to wonder when you say something, should you have said it or should you not have said it? My Baba said to me always in Yiddish, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. My mother also always tells me that. She says, Freida, if you don't have something nice, don't say it. And she's right. She's right. So let's take this to heart, that we should watch what we say and how we say it. And I speak to myself, girls, it's not only you. And God should always bless us with good health and good tidings. Count the Omer. Of course, if you haven't counted, you don't say a blessing because you can only count every night if you don't forget. And choose something every night. Choose one little thing to work on. You will only feel better about it. Anyway, have a wonderful Shabbos, a wonderful week. And Margaret, again, thank you. Jane, a pleasure studying Torah with you, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, wish we could see you, Jane. How about
Yes.